Hi everyone, my name is Jocelyn Lai, and hope you're all having a great time at the Work with Soul workshop. I'm actually super excited about this because I feel too often society puts success in finances, financial success, or career success, and that defines if you are successful. But I personally believe that if we really look at our unique God-given talents and really make sure we focus on using those to achieve our life purpose, then we will find much more happiness and joy in this world. So, like I said, my name is Jocelyn. I am a recruitment and management, organizational management expert. I'm currently at an advertising agency where I'm heading up Asia Pacific recruitment. Prior to that, I helped open up quite a few offices for them and restructured a few on the West Coast. Now I'm doing that same thing here in Asia Pacific. So hello from Shanghai, that's where I'm talking from. So a little bit of background on me. So I actually grew up wanting to be two things, a circus performer and Harriet the Spy. So the funny thing is I'm actually doing those two things now. So if you think about it, the Harriet Spy piece is I go hunt for the best talent. I sniff out clues on where they might be, who might be the right fit to help us solve this larger organizational mystery. And then the circus performer part, in recruitment, I get to go travel the world and represent our company and essentially put on a show about our company that hopefully gets a lot of applause and bravos and encores. So I'm happy to say that I've achieved my childhood dreams of being a circus performer in Harriet the Spy. However, I did get to where I am today through a zigzag. So I started off on the business side of marketing and advertising, went into recruitment because someone took a risk on me, and also I took the right accident, and then went back into the business side and quickly realized that I was not happy. I was never satisfied at work. I was always frustrated at work. So I went back to the recruitment side, and I've been here ever since. So I've worked at quite a few agencies, being their recruiter, managed multiple restructures, and also opened up quite a few offices. So the question is, what is my spiritual practice or my spiritual practices? For me, it's very much rooted in two things. So the first one is really focusing on finding the beauty of everything around me. The second one is very much focused on building faith. So the first one is, every day I try to find beauty in every moment, whether it's actually seeing a beautiful flower, or it's meeting someone who really has a true talent, or it's managing a difficult conversation. There's beauty and opportunities in all of these little pieces in our lives. So when I look at the world through the lens of what are these moments of beauty, it really changes my perspective on how I approach things. And in a way, it truly feeds my soul because I'm looking at the world through a lens of happiness and joy that then gives it back to me. The second one is very much focused on building faith. And so for me, the definition of faith is being comfortable and being able to find hope and courage in these unknown times. It's in the unknown times that we oftentimes get scared and we can't achieve our true potential. So being able to remain strong and being able to be okay in these moments and knowing that there is a way out and there will be a way out. Sometimes we don't see it. That's what I believe faith is. And so every day when I face challenges, I see it as an opportunity to strengthen my faith, which will ultimately make me stronger in character. So there's this one quote that I'll end my spiritual practice with that I just absolutely love, and it's by Hans Christian Andersen. And it's, every man's life is a fairy tale written by God's hand. And so that's absolutely how I look at people, how I look at my life. It's let's find the beauty, but also let's also know that and believe that everything happens for a reason and that there's absolutely hope and joy in this world. We just have to choose to see it. All right, so now for the fun stuff. You know who I am, my spiritual practices. Now it's all about you guys and what you need. And so typically the number one question is the broad one, right? How do I get a job? And my answer is always, getting a job is actually very easy. What's very difficult actually is finding the right job. So it's just like dating. I always tell everyone, don't overcomplicate finding a job. just look at it as dating. It's very easy to date anyone, but it's hard to date and find the right person. So this is exact same theory and philosophy when it comes to finding a job. So step one of finding the right job is absolutely spending enough time and plenty of quality time dating yourself. So you have to figure out, who are you? What do you stand for? What do you not stand for? What do you like? What do you love? What do you hate? And what can you live without? Similarly, what can't you live without? So these are things that define who you are. And the more you get to know this, the more you know who your identity is at work. And so once you're confident in yourself, you will begin to attract the right opportunities, because you can decipher what's exactly a fit or not a fit, because it either fits your needs or it doesn't. So that's step one. Absolutely know who you are. Spend a lot of time looking at that. Step two is begin to put your vibes out there. Once you know exactly who you are and what you love and what you hate, put the vibes out there. That way the right opportunities will come to you. Every time you talk to someone, make sure you share with them, who are you at your core, in life, but also at work. This way they know who you are, and they might share it with their networks. And that way if someone says, oh, I'm looking for someone who really enjoys being at the transition of organizations, and you happen to be that person, you've let your vibes out, then those connections become much more natural. The rest of these steps are much more executional. It's like, make sure your CV is correct, your LinkedIn profile, personal branding, these type of things. But when it comes to finding a job, step one, date yourself. Step two, once you know who you are, put your vibes out there so that you can begin attracting the right jobs. All right, so question number 2. So let's say you've applied for several jobs and you've got you've been requested to come in for an interview. How do you nail the interview? So there's some very basic, easy ones that I think everyone should be prepared for. So like, who are you? What's your story? Be able to give your elevator speech. Be able to talk about why you're interested in the company, what the opportunities are, how you might be a fit for the company. But there are things that are very much soul alignment pieces that I feel too many people forget to ask. Or, quite frankly, some of them are scared to ask. So this is where some of it can be done pre-interview, some of it during the interview, and also some of it post-interview. So the first piece is, typically people say, research the company. That's obvious. But I think the way and also what you research about the company is very important to making sure that this work that you're doing is soul feeding, that it will bring out the highest potential in who you are. So what I like to recommend is, don't just read up on the profile of the company. Don't just visit the website. Figure out what their reputation is. Google their news. Put them on Google alerts, so anytime they hit the news, you see what their reputation is in the marketplace. That way you know what they're lauded for, but you also know what they get in trouble for. And from that, you will be able to extract what are the core values of that organization, and does it align with who you are as a person and who your values are. Because if you're working for the company and they're working for you, those values have to align for there to be progress and for both people to be mutually happy. The other piece is research who you're interviewing with, and that's beyond just looking them up on LinkedIn. Also ask around. If you see that you have a connection who knows the person you're interviewing with, do some reference checking to find out if they are someone that you'd want to work for. In fact, studies have shown that most people do not leave a company because of the company itself. They typically leave because of their manager, because their manager will either ruin their lives or completely make their lives awesome. So the other piece is, really think about, who are the type of people that you want to work with. Who are you willing to work with? Who aren't you willing to work with? And those have to be non-negotiables, because they absolutely create your environment, and your environment very much has to be in tune with who you are as a person. So the other pieces, I think, like I said, are much more just tactical and being well prepared. But one secret that I have that I tell everyone is, if you haven't interviewed in a while, you have to practice. Even for me, I do interviews every day. But when I'm being interviewed, I haven't taken on that mindset for many years. So the best advice I have for preparing for an interview is to go land some interviews at places you absolutely do not want to work for. It could be even McDonald's or even Starbucks. But you need the practice of being able to sell yourself in a humble yet genuine and authentic way. So go find places you don't want to work at, interview there. Do 7 of them. Even if you bomb those 7, it's okay. You didn't want to work there at the beginning anyway. But that means the 8th one, the 8th interview, the one that you actually care about, you'll be prepared for because you understand what questions to anticipate. You know, what questions you need to ask to figure out what are the values of that organization and does it align with who you are. Okay, so the last question, and I get this one a lot, is I've applied for a job and I haven't heard back. I never hear back. Is it just a black hole? Is there a human behind this whole application process? What actually happens? It's all a mystery. So hopefully I can shed some light on that. So at some organizations, it is a black hole. At other organizations, it absolutely is not. So there's really no way, no real way that the job application happens. And that's because behind the whole entire process is a human. And humans are all different. So there isn't a recruiter school that we all go to and the process is all the same and we use the same system and we'll get back to people in X number of days. There's not a streamlined way of recruiting. And that's because the recruiter has to exhibit the values of the organization. So for me, I read every single resume that comes through the system because it only takes about 3 seconds for me to glance and see if they're a fit. There's some other recruiters that I've worked with where their mind does not work this way. They're more in-depth people when it comes to CVs, so they like to read every single one. But they can only get through 50 a day, so you may not hear from them until 2 weeks out. Whereas there are other recruiters I've worked with where they really truly do not read any CV that comes into their application portal. Instead, they prefer going out and hand-picking the candidates. They purely post it for the awareness piece to get the word out there that they're looking for this role to fill. So it really depends on the recruiter. So there really isn't one way and one expectation you should have. Instead, the expectation you should have is to really research your recruiter and try to understand what are their needs, what are their methods, what are their preferred ways of communication. And there are a lot of ways to test this. You can send them an email, figure out the email formula, send them an email, see if they respond. There's also connecting with them on LinkedIn, the more casual way. Or if you're in a more creative environment, maybe it's following them on Twitter or Instagram. And that's another way to get a hold of them. The main thing to keep in mind, though, is to really not be overbearing about it. I always say there's a creepy litmus test. If someone was doing this to you and you get a little bit of a creepy vibe, don't do it. So you have to, it's really very much people management and being able to read people. So don't expect a certain way. You just have to be creative and problem solve. And sometimes you don't hear back. And that's how the organization works. So I always say you also look at what is your experience in dealing with recruiters or the recruiter, because they ultimately reflect who the company is and what they stand for. So if they're acting a certain way and they've been hired to represent the company, then does that mean the rest of the organization is this way? Of course, there are exceptions, but I always look at recruiters with a very critical eye of if you're representing the company and you're acting this way, that means the rest of the company is typically probably this way since you're hiring the people who go into the organization. So, like I said, there's not really one answer to this. It's more of you have to be very much of a problem solver. So sometimes there's a black hole, sometimes there isn't. And sometimes there is a kind of a black hole. You just have to read the situation. So I hope that all these tips helped you. I do want to do a quick little call to action, leave behind of if there's one thing you can do to be a better candidate, what would it be? I would say it's really understanding, and this sounds a little cliche, but it's understanding who you are from a trends perspective. So it took me a while to figure out who I am, and what work means to me, and what work I'm meant to do. And what I had to do was really look at every single place I've worked at, what is the common factor amongst all of them? What drew me to the place? What did I get joy out of? What did I get excited about? What would I have done for free? What did I stay up late at night working on? And so my trend, I noticed, is coming in when there's a transitional point at organizations. So it was building up new departments at one place. The next place was completely rechanging the image. Another place was restructuring an organization. Another place was opening up new offices. Where I am now, it's going to a completely different, even continent to try to open something up. So I've always started, or I always get joy out of these transitional moments. So that's one thing that I highly recommend, is figure out what your sweet spot is. What is the trend amongst all the things that you like? And you can also start to see that it dials into all of the other aspects of your life. So just like how I like transitional, transformational moments, this is exactly why I love swim coaching. It's the only job I've never gotten tired of, because you see someone who's scared of even dipping their toe in water to swimming an entire lap. Same thing with why I love doing hair, and one of my dreams is to become a hairdresser, because you go from bedhead hair, I look like a monster, to a beauty queen. Transformation. So it's very important to understand what are these trends in your life, because they really, really show the personality of who you are and what drives you. And if you can inject that into your work and find a job that really speaks to that trend, then you will be very much motivated and probably stay in that job for quite a bit, because you'll constantly be eager to do more. So that's pretty much it. The beauty of digital is that we can all continue the conversation no matter where we are. So like I said, I'm in Shanghai right now. You guys are all in different cities, but we can continue the conversation. We can keep asking each other questions and keep discussing and figure out what are the right answers. And I hopefully have provided some of those. But what I'd love to do is, if you have any additional follow-up questions, you can, one, put them in the Facebook comments section. And at the end of this week, I'll select a random person and we'll set up time to do one of two things, or both if it's more relevant to you. Is one, take a look at your CV, your resume, and I can give some tips on how to more refine it, make it more relevant for your audience. The second piece is having a session on what is your sweet spot, and how can you make sure that you capitalize on that in your job search. So, like I said, please post comments on the Facebook comment section down there, because that way we can continue our conversation. If you have any questions that you want to reach out more privately about, you can feel free to Facebook private message me. You can also email me or tweet at me. So my email is Jocelyn S. Lai at yahoo.com, and my Twitter handle is Jocelyn S. Lai. So everything is Jocelyn S. Lai. All right, well, thanks so much. Hope you all enjoyed this and that you got a lot of good tips out of it. Enjoy the rest of your week with the workshop. Bye.